I look at fear as exactly that. So if I'm afraid to approach someone or to go have a public speech or to just say and speak my mind to someone that I know I'm in the right and I want them to know how I'm feeling, like these things hold us back from living the life that honestly you deserve to live.
We are Gold Ivy.
Our mission is to empower you to own and unleash your truth.
Stories of resiliency are gold, and ivy grows in hard places.
Those hard places are what create space for light to shine through.
You decide what works for your daily life and how to transform our lessons into your gold.
This is Ivy Unleashed,
a Gold Ivy production. Hey everyone, if you're like me, January through May means cold and flu season. But this year, I'm ready. Besides the all things elderberry gummies my kids ask for every morning, I want to talk about something that is a non-negotiable in my fridge, the everyday elderberry elixir from All Things Elderberry. They call it an elixir, not a syrup, and here's why. It's made with organic, farm-fresh Missouri elderberries, never dried. That gives it a light, uniquely juicy, and palatable consistency. It's not thick or overly sweet. And the difference it makes for me is huge. For me, a tablespoon anytime I feel that first little tickle in my throat or before a big event where I absolutely refuse to be sick. It either completely kicks symptoms to the curb or lessens them so fast. Even my oldest, Cora, is asking for it. I will never not have it. It's my daily defense. And who needs that defense more right now than our bride-to-be, Brooke?
Ooh, yes. Wedding season is basically a marathon. Between the bridal showers, the bachelorette trip to Florida, and all the main events, I don't have time to be run down. The thought of getting sick before my bachelorette trip, no thank you. I'm taking my elderberry elixir with me every morning, whether I'm at home or on the road. It's my little insurance policy so I can fully enjoy this once-in-a-lifetime season without worry. It's literally for the mom who holds everything together and the bride who is trying to hold her wedding together.
That's right. Whether you're a busy parent, a traveler, or a bride prepping for the big day, you deserve this defense. Stop letting illness slow you down. Head over to allthingselderberry.com right now.
And for 15% off your very first order, use our special code GOLDIVY. That's GOLDIVY. Get the everyday elderberry elixir. It's the defense you deserve.
Before we get back to today's conversation, I want to talk about something that hits most of us as we enter the premenopausal and menopausal years. That sudden, frustrating shift in how our bodies feel. We often talk about hot flashes, but we don't talk enough about the menopause middle. The stubborn bloating, the brain fog, and the fact that our digestion just seems to stall.
This isn't just in your head, it's in your microbiome. Trust me, I have worked for years to continually care for my gut health. As we age, our estrogen and progesterone levels drop, and we actually lose the diversity of the good bacteria in our gut. This dysbiosis leads to an increase in inflammatory bacteria, which is why we suddenly struggle with constipation, mood swings, and even sleep disturbances. That's why I want to introduce you to Relievance.
Relievance isn't just another fiber supplement. It was developed by Dr. Robert A. Gans, a nationally recognized board-certified gastroenterologist with over 30 years of clinical experience. Dr. Gans saw the limitations of standard fiber products and created this proprietary 8-fiber formula.
What makes Relievance different is the science of balance. It combines 8 different fibers, each selected for their specific viscosity and solubility. This allows the formula to dissolve gently and support your natural gut rhythm without the harsh gas or bloating often caused by single fiber supplements.
By increasing your fiber intake with a blended formula like Relievance, you're doing more than just staying regular. You're feeding the beneficial bacteria that help regulate your hormones, clear that menopause brain fog, and stabilize your energy levels. It's a tool to help fight the physiological effects of aging and reclaim your daily comfort.
It is third-party tested, gluten-free, and contains 0 artificial additives or fillers. It's just pure, clinically balanced support for a sensitive stomach. Sign me up.
If you're ready to target bloating at the source and support your microbiome through this transition, it's time to try the formula Dr. Gans developed for his own patients.
For your convenience, you can find Relievance Fiber right on Amazon or visit relievancefiber.com. Feel like yourself again with Relievance.
And now to this episode of the Ivy Unleashed podcast. Welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. Today is so exciting. Brooke has not met this person until right now that we have here for Ivy Unleashed. Today we are talking with Sam Gute Rogers. Welcome to Ivy Unleashed.
Hello, Brooke and Andrea. Thank you so much to invite me to Ivy Unleashed.
Yeah.
This has been a time that we've been waiting for a couple months now, and I'm so excited to be here.
Tell the people where you are in the world right now.
Currently in Da Nang, Vietnam.
Vietnam. Okay. And Sam is here because we met at an event where there were all these motivational speakers, and I was sitting next to him and his mom. They had this great energy. And I was gifted some guest passes, like these VIP guest passes from Rene Rodriguez. He's like, is anybody with you? I had just met Sam and his mom. And I was like, oh yeah, I got these two guys with me. So he meets me. I hand him a VIP ticket. We end up going to this beautiful lunch, meeting like celebrities in the space and getting to take pictures with people. We're like, what planet are we on? How did this happen? But when I was talking with you, Sam, you were telling me that you've lived in different parts of the world. You prefer sleeping on the floor without a pillow or on a bed.
That caught my attention when you reported back.
So there's just like, you're such a unique guy. You have all this experience of living throughout the world. And there's lots of things we want to talk about today and get into your story more. But how we're starting every episode is with some instant impact. So something that we'll talk about, further into this episode in more depth. But if something comes to mind that you're like, I got to tell the people this, what comes to mind for you?
Wow. Well, the thing that I really think about a lot is just like, what do I want? And I think that question is something that is really a deep reserve that has been kind of like hidden away for so many people, and especially myself when I was in my early days. And I think it's just a great reminder just to come back to ask yourself that question, just to be like, what do I want? What do I want in this situation right now that is important for me to do, to say, to take action on, or just to feel? It's just really important in my experience to really come back to the self, because there's so many different kinds of judgments and shames and expectations and pressures that we get put on in the world that we live in today. And so I think when I can ask myself, like, what do I want? I get so much more clear of what is actually important to me outside of everyone else's reasoning.
I think sometimes that's clouded too. You don't realize how much you're banking on validation from people, or you're banking on like trying to control outcomes or how people feel about you. So you're doing things to just get that approval. And I think that's such a powerful question to ask yourself. I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm like, is this what I want? Like, I'm doing this. It's going well, but like, is this what I want? Or am I just doing it because it tends to get approval from other people? So you're a self-mastery coach, and I think that's so intriguing. And I think it's one thing to know what you want, but then it's another thing to go after what you want. And so let's talk about what being a self-mastery coach means and how you help people with that.
There's a gap, I believe, that we live in. And especially me, when I look at myself, I'm like, okay, I have this vision of how I want my life to be and how I want to feel, the people that I want to be around. And there's also like what's actually happening. And so there's this gap that happens in between. And that's where I believe it's important to have this characteristic or skill set, or you could say value, of self-mastery. And so self-mastery is this ability to be able to know what you want and then essentially do everything that it takes to have that. If that means like having this feeling of being alive, having the right body you want to have, or just the right friends, the right partner, just so many different things that I think is really healthy to have. Like, we're humans, we're designed to want growth and designed to be moving with change. And so I find that it's always important to continue to develop a sense of growth when it comes to developing yourself. And self-mastery just allows you to become that version of you every single step of the way, because it's honestly just a process. It's really just a journey of experiencing what it is that you're feeling, noticing right now, and then just taking those steps every single day to achieve what you want. And showing compassion and gratitude for what you already have. And there's so many different elements of self mastery that it's hard to just capture in one sentence or one explanation, because there's self love, there's self compassion, there is self respect, there is so many different elements of self. And then we also can look at the negative aspects of like self sabotage, um, self insecure, so many different kinds of negative and positive that come in between. And I believe at the end of the day, yourself is the most important person to listen to and to also understand. And it's honestly an underutilized resource in the days that we're living in.
So let's think about the listener who is like, okay, I hear what you're saying. I don't know what I want, but I know it's not this. I am trying to meet everyone else's needs. I don't even have boundaries. Like, let's go way back. What sort of practices or things would you recommend if you're in a coaching call with someone like that?
Yeah, that's really, it's definitely a position that I've been in myself and a lot of people that I've worked with as well, because they're just so lost in realizing that the life that they've built is just not the life that they actually enjoy. And it's honestly just that first step of having honesty of where you're at and recognizing that there is something that you're unsatisfied with, because that level of recognition and awareness will give you so much more power to do something about it. And especially if it gives you enough strength, or you could also say pain and struggle, because that's actually a huge motivator for some people. And it was for me, especially when I got arrested and I went to jail. That was the biggest motivator for me, because I was just like, I'm tired of this shit. I don't want to keep living this life anymore. And I'm tired of smoking and drinking and being around these people that don't really love me or appreciate me or have any gratitude towards me. And I seriously just wanted to make something different in my life. And that level of just tenacity and, I guess you could say, strength had to come from that pain. And that first step, really, that I always encourage people to do is just to, as I was saying, like, recognize that this is a situation that you're maybe not liking in your life right now. It could be a variety of areas. And then being able to just come back to a simple reflection. And that can be asking why. I really, really, really love the question why. And I was able to ask myself this question every single day. Almost every single day, I just ask myself like a different variety question of why. That could be like, why am I in this job right now? Why am I in this friendship circle right now? Why am I with this partner right now? Why do I love myself? Why do I not appreciate myself? Why do I feel this way? There's so many different reasons and explanations for so many different areas. And it's actually super interesting, because as you keep diving into why, there's another layer behind that why. And then another layer behind that why. And then another layer behind that why. There is this psychological phenomenon called like the 7 layers of why, or 5 layers of why. And it's basically like, if I were to sit down with you and be like, okay, so why do you want to change? You would tell me one thing, and then I would ask why again, based on what you just told me. And so that's essentially what I would do with someone, and just continuously ask why, until you get to that main core wound, which then gives them that strength. Surprisingly, it's very fascinating to see what happens when you start to ask yourself questions that you've never asked yourself before.
What was your why when you went back post jail and smoking and wanting to make a change? What did you end up at?
That's a great question. So for me, I happened to be a huge people pleaser. And the thing about people pleasing is that I find that a variety of reasons why we grow as individuals is not for the self, but for other people. I find that all of our problems are interpersonal relationship problems. And for me, that was also very, very, very true. And so why I wanted to change was honestly to become more confident and to people to like me better. And essentially, if you go just into just one word, it's just to have validation and appreciation from other people because I felt extremely insignificant, like I wasn't good enough, like I was stupid, like I was just dumb, I was small, and I could give myself all the reasons why I was just not a great fit for the peers around me or whatever context I could put myself in. And that honestly was just me wanting to change myself because I wanted to be appreciated more in these circles. And that was the biggest motivator for me to just change myself. But I realized after many years is that that can't be the foundation if you want to continue growing because that comes from a place of lack. And that's okay. But for me, where I'm at, that's just not where it is now. That's not my why anymore.
So what changed? I mean, obviously, when you're talking about coming from a place of pain to change, you're in jail. You're definitely probably drinking and doing things too much that you shouldn't be doing. And so that's a place of pain to want to grow. And then you realize it's okay, now I'm just doing this not for the right reasons. But how did you become conscious that I'm trying to please other people and I need to do this differently in a deeper way? Like what clicked for you and how did that happen?
This is something that is really a long journey for me. It took me a really, really long time to get to that. And essentially, I realized that when I realized it because having a business is such a spiritual and like it's such a deep, just deconstruction of who you are. And honestly, the thing about it was I realized so much of who I was in my business was a people pleaser as well. And so whenever I wanted to invite someone to basically see if it would be a good fit to work together, let's say, I would get self-conscious and I'll be like, why am I feeling insecure to actually ask this person when I know I have a lot of value and I know I have a lot of worth to ask this person if they would like to work with me? And it started to come to me where I was like, this is still my people pleasing wound, the why that I had. And then I had to do a huge, just deep dive into my identity and understand like, what is my new why? And I realized that we have a spectrum. Like there's this dark side of you, and then there's this light side of you. And I realized that if I looked at the best versions of myself, the best version of myself that wasn't a people pleaser, because I know that was like my dark side. The opposite of that would be a fun loving person. And so I kept realizing and also looking just at all the good times, the good moments, the grateful moments, the appreciative moments in my life. And I started to recognize that all of those moments when I felt the best was when I was a fun loving person. And I had no care in the world for what other people thought of me, and that's where I started to lean towards. And so the more I moved towards being a fun-loving person and just wanted the best for other people and enjoy the process and just not really care about the attachments, I I had such a different experience. Just completely changed everything for me. And I've been able to attach myself to that because, well, honestly, on the other side of that, I'm just a bitter people pleaser. And I don't want to be a bitter people pleaser. So I'd rather be a fun-loving person.
Let's talk about the way you've lived around the world, and where you've lived and what you've learned from living there. Because I feel like people that have kind of been in the same place forever, it's kind of hard to have some self-awareness and these big growth jumps when you're kind of in the same place. And so I know I think you told me you lived in China before. Now you're in Vietnam. Where have you kind of lived and how has it helped shape you?
I moved to China when I was 8 years old, and this was obviously just not in my control. But it was such a profound experience, and I hated it when I first went there as a child. I just you know, children, they like to fight back, and that's basically what I was doing. So I realized though after living there, because the last year of when I was there, I was like, wow, this has just been so amazing, and I don't want to leave. I don't want to have to go back to the US. But honestly, it was so fascinating to see as well when I didn't realize it until I went back to the US. Because when I was in China for the first time, I could just be myself and everyone else was their own selves as well, because I was going to an international school with people from Korea, from Japan, from Brazil, from Russia, from China, from all over the world, like 80 different countries. I was having these experiences with kids that didn't have a culture, didn't have a social norm. And that was so fascinating to me because we could just be whoever we wanted to be. And there was no strict guidelines outside of just what the school rules were. And so when we were out in the streets and just running around, China was also a free place for us to just be whoever we wanted to be. And as a kid, all of a sudden you're learning like I can just be whoever I want to be, and I just don't have any like repercussions or bad things that are going to happen. Like this is it changes your brain structure quite significantly. And what was so crazy when I went back to the US is that I got bullied for not being in the social norm, not being in culture. And I can give you an example because I just didn't know what the term like, oh, I took an L. I don't know what that meant. And that supposedly meant I lost. And so all these kids were making fun of me because I didn't know what this term was or this pop culture was. And I was like just getting isolated and bullied for this. And I was like so surprised, and I was caught off guard where I had to all of a sudden shape myself back in and start to people please and mold myself into being what other people wanted me to be and be this like social chameleon. And I started to lose a lot of myself as well within that whole process. And then ever since I went to college and high school and then graduating from college, and I was like, honestly, like throughout all the time since being back in the US, I haven't been able to feel myself and truly be a part of a community or people that allowed me to be myself without ridiculing me or putting me down for who I was. And as soon as I went to Vietnam, I was like still having this aspect and personality traits within me, but I was so excited and I just didn't let that fear take over me anymore. And I was like, I'm going to choose to be a new person. And I did. I totally did. And I decided to go to events and just be myself. And all of a sudden, I like years later, now 3 years into being in Vietnam, I've built like a 500 person community. I've become a leader of the group of this community. And everyone is like, oh, you know, Sam, like, oh, I love this guy. Like he's just himself. I just can be myself. And I don't have any worries or any thoughts of second guessing. And it's so fascinating to me because I find the West just has such a pressure to be professional and to be looking the part all the time. And it's such a huge pressure, and it's so stressful to be on all the time. And honestly, it's so worth it to just get out at least for a little bit of time and see what the world is really like when you don't have to live by culture or social norms or what your mom or dad or best friend is telling you to do. Is like, it's so freeing.
It's beautiful. And you're giving people permission to be themselves, it sounds like, in this community that you've built, which is so cool. I think it's sad though. A lot of people, we will never have that opportunity to go just like live somewhere for like, that's one of my regrets is not traveling abroad when I was in college. Cause it's such a unique experience. I got to back you up for a second because I want to know where you started sleeping on the floor in this mix too, because we're going deep here, but I still need to circle back. I need to know why we're laying on the ground. Is this a China thing? Is this a Vietnam thing? Or are you still sleeping on the floor? If you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know I used to be the biggest skeptic about supplements. I thought, I can definitely get everything I need from food. But then I started to realize that high quality, clean supplements weren't about replacing a healthy diet. They were about optimizing my health in a way I never thought possible. For instance, I discovered what so many women eventually do. I was deficient in magnesium. Now that it's part of my routine, I'm sleeping better and I feel absolutely amazing. It made me realize that quality matters more than anything.
When it comes to taking supplements, ingredient integrity is a must for us both, and that's why we trust Smidge. Smidge offers a small line of foundational supplements, core nutrients, including 100% whole food vitamins, and digestive support for people who prioritize real food but know even the best diets have gaps. They obsess over ingredient integrity, crafting minimal, clean products with zero additives and rich nutrients meticulously sourced from around the world. We both love Smidge's magnesium, but with my chronic gut health issues, Smidge's digestive support is my tried and true. I use their digestive enzymes every single day before meals, and it has been a game changer in post-meal bloat, fatigue, and overall digestion for me. If you have any digestive issues, their enzymes, including the original and HCl plus enzymes, are a must try.
Smidge just dropped some incredible whole food supplements that we've been loving. First up, their Kakadu Plum. Most vitamin C supplements are just mass-produced synthetic chemicals, but this is the real deal from Australia. It's pure, whole food vitamin C that your body actually knows how to use for glowing skin and a rock-solid immune system.
I'm also obsessed with their Australian emu oil. You won't find this at a typical health store. It's the best source of vitamin K2, MK4, which is a total game changer for women's bone and heart health. While plant-based K2 is hard for your body to process, Smidge's emu oil is already pre-converted, so your body absorbs it instantly.
So, if you want a brand that is truly backed by research, derived from sustainable principles, and only wants to provide you with the freshest, highest quality nutrients, it's Smidge.
Head over to getsmidge.com to check out their magnesium, emu oil, Kakadu plum, and their fantastic digestive enzymes. And don't forget to use our code GOLDIV10 at checkout for 10% off.
Are you tired of the endless battle with cravings? Do you dream of managing your appetite without the hassle, the side effects, or the hefty price tag?
Then it's time to meet Dr. Stephanie. She's not just a doctor of pharmacy, she's a certified diabetes educator and a leading hormone expert. She listened to your struggles and formulated a gentle, natural solution, GLP Wonder.
GLP Wonder is a revolutionary supplement designed for an easier path to appetite control and hunger management. How? It works by combining powerful natural ingredients like eriocitrin and green tea extract to naturally support your body's own GLP-1 levels. This signals fullness to your brain, curbs those persistent cravings, and even helps fight insulin spikes, that stubborn, fat-storing hormone.
The result? Reduced hunger, better appetite control, and a more natural way to stay on track with your diet and goals. It's effective, it's safe, and it's affordable. Just one capsule per day for powerful results.
GLP Wonder is now easier than ever to find. Look for Dr. Stephanie's GLP Wonder at Walgreens, CVS, and Walmart. And we are thrilled to announce that you can now find it in Target stores nationwide.
Stop waiting and start winning the fight against cravings today. Find your nearest store, or to learn more and shop the full Dr. Stephanie's collection, visit drstephanies.com. And for a limited time, use code GOLDIV30 for 30% off all Dr. Stephanie products at drstephanies.com.
I do prefer it. And the reason is I didn't always know what was going on with this, but just, okay, like I said, being in Vietnam, you just meet really unique characters here. So I met this one guy particularly. His name is Kirill, and he is from Russia. And he basically I met him, and he's like this yoga teacher, and he has gone to India, he's gone to Rishikesh, he's done so many yoga teacher trainings, and he's also developed his own yoga teaching practice. And he also has a few friends who are really, as they call themselves, like yogis. And I was like, okay, this is a new thing to me. I didn't know what was going on here. And I was like, so what does a yogi do? And it's a little bit, I guess it's actually not a little bit. It's really crazy. Like, they have this whole specific underwear that they wear, which I'm not into that. But when they were,
Okay. Brooke's a yoga instructor too, so do you have some underwear recommendations, Brooke?
No.
The thing about it is, like, he was telling me that he doesn't sleep on beds, and I was like, what? And I go into his room one day, and all these other few guys that are living in this house, and they just, like, they're telling their landlord to take all the beds out because these are fully furnished houses that we can rent out here. And they're telling them to remove the beds and the framing and all this. I'm like, you guys, what? Why would you do that? And they're like, we just prefer sleeping on the floor. We get much better sleep. And I actually saw this as well when I started to do more research on it. It just happened to be that the bone structure and when you're sleeping on a hard surface, your your body and your back and the way that everything places itself in your body is just a much more stable position instead of when you're in the bed, there's all this cushion that is just like honestly more draining and taxing on the body. And so it's not allowing the body to fully rest and fully like decompress. And so I started to try it and I was like really uncomfortable the first few days. But once I started to do it, I was like, wow, this is actually so good. I started to feel like my back was all of a sudden really much more relaxed and not as stiff anymore. Surprisingly, right? If you were be sleeping on like a hard surface, so I don't know how you would not have back problems.
Do you have a
But yes,
pillow?
I do have one pillow, yeah. But you just have like a yoga mat, and then you put like a sheet of blanket over that, and then you could put like a sheet on top of you as well, and then just like one pillow. I typically make sure like whenever I'm sleeping, I pay attention to my spine posture, and so that way I'm not like crooked over or anything. I'll make sure that if I'm sleeping with a pillow, I'm then sleeping on my side so my spine is still straight. But that's still a pretty tricky. But my body just started to get used to it and it appreciated it a lot more. And I found that when I was at home, my mom, she has like this super thick cushion. And I'm like sleeping in there and I'm just so uncomfortable. Like there's so many different like this it's so thick. And I'm like, okay, mom, I don't know how to tell you this, mom, but I don't like the bed. And she's like, what? Why wouldn't you like the bed? And so I decided just to start to sleep on the carpet with just a blanket.
She's like, my kid came
And I was
back home
getting,
and he just wants to sleep on the carpet, guys. What do I do with my kid? I
yeah,
love
it's
it.
so much better.
I was intrigued. I was like, I didn't ask him more about it. Brooke was like, why? I was like, I don't know. I didn't ask him.
Yeah. What other things do you do differently than maybe say the average American with living in different places and picking up on other cultures? I'm
Oh yeah.
curious.
Oh my gosh, there's a number of things. Well, first of all, one of the things that I love to do is just be really crazy and weird and obnoxious, and that's just part of my fun-loving personality. And so one of the things that Vietnam allows me to do in that sense is when I go to the beach in the morning, I will scream my lungs out, basically, and just do a little bit of like some roars and primal screams, and uh, it's really funny because the Vietnamese will start to scream with me, and they'll be like, "Good morning,"
That
and
is
that's
so
so
funny.
fun. Another thing is actually that I learned from these yogis is they do what is called the sadhu board. I haven't done this in a while, but it's essentially a little practice where you stand on nails. And this is a nail board. It's kind of like a nail board massage. And so you just take these two planks, they're professionally designed and they have a really interesting design where it's like the nails are designed in a way that it's like acupuncture in a certain way for your feet, but then all of your weight is just placed on your feet because there's a lot of stress and little and tension that gets stored in the feet. And so it's a deep release of tension and stored stress. And so when you stand on this for minutes, even like for his, like one of the yogis was doing it for 10 minutes. And I was like, what is this? Like I stood on there. I was like having a whole crazy body reaction, just even standing on there for 5 seconds.
Have you ever heard
Because
of
it
a
was
Shakti
so
mat?
a shot like a EMF mat or something.
No, so it's like an acupressure mat. So it's all little pins, like kind of like little
Yeah.
needles, and you lay on it on your back. And I do that at night, and it's similar. And I've seen videos of people
Yeah.
just standing on it for similar benefits.
Yeah.
It feels good though. Like once you get past the initial holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, you force your body to just relax, and then
Yes.
oh, it's magic.
You know what's crazy?
Exactly.
I'm thinking about so far the theme of kind of what you've done in life and what you're currently doing is just kind of out there. And it's just like trying new random things that might seem weird, but like get out of your box, right? And you never know what it's going to be like. I can't imagine myself screaming on a beach, but I feel like part of me kind of wants to do it just to see if it would be like a somatic release of something I'm holding in. And
Yes.
like, I can't imagine how thrilling that would be to just be like pounding my chest in front of people, strangers, and having Vietnamese.
Exhilarating.
But something before we started recording, we were talking about like exposure therapy of fears, and I feel like some people's fears are like being heard or being embarrassed or trying something new you're bad at and like sucking at it. And I just think you're kind of living that life. You're moving to different places. You're talking about maybe another move and just starting over and doing lots of scary things. And so I would love for you to talk about what you've learned of like why that's so important to kind of get out of the box and try some things that might seem kind of scary.
I love where you're going with that because the thing about exposure therapy is that it brings up one of the most profound and deepest sorts of you could say emotions, and that's fear. And the thing about fear is that it holds me and every single other person back from being the best version of the self. And so there's this quote that I live by, which goes, the cave that you are most afraid to enter is the place where the is the treasure that you seek the most. And so I basically look at this as like all of the fear that I have, because honestly, we can look at this as like rational fear and irrational fear. Rational fear obviously would be running away from a bear. And rational fear also could be like, oh, I got to make sure I don't get bit by this dog or, not falling from certain heights. We get those kinds of fears, of course. But when it comes to the irrational fear, that's majority of our life because we already have a lot of our needs met according to the hierarchy of needs under Maslow's philosophy. And so basically, we have nearly all of those, you could say, rational fears met. So we don't actually have typically many fears in our day-to-day life. And our body is designed to run away from predators and threats and things that are just getting us anxious. And that means that because that we have that physiological and psychological aspect within us, we still use it. We still use it very much as it was a primal thing to keep us safe. And that's the thing is that it's become so irrational nowadays that it's honestly just not it's not a fear at all. It's just a social fear. Because as I was mentioning earlier, like all of our problems come from interpersonal relationship problems. So that means like if you want to land a client for your business, like it's because you're afraid of rejection or what they might think of you or what the next person has to think. And so the idea about exposure therapy is just moving towards fear. The thing that scares you, the thing that is like, I don't know what's going to happen. And if it makes your tummy rumble, then that's exactly the thing that is going to help you become a whole different person. Because as you just said there, Andrea, about like going to the beach and you're kind of excited, you get those little jitters even thinking about it. That means that's a signal that you should do it. Like you want to do it. There's a version of you that wants to do it. But what is the rationality that we then start to put in our heads of like, oh, what are the other people going to think of me? Or like, what would, yeah, it's just so many different questions. Again, it's the fear protection that runs as a primal instinct. And nowadays we don't have that. So it's so simple just to feel like, honestly, I have so many different fears about myself and what I'm capable of doing. And one example is like, I always wanted to do a backflip, but I was so afraid of like breaking my neck.
Fair.
And yeah, right. And that's actually what I was doing then. I started to train myself and I started to do the little practices to put my head over my back. And slowly, steadily over I guess you could say, a year of training myself physiologically, like in my body, somatically, to change the way that my mind and my body reacted to fear by training myself to do backflips, something that I was extremely afraid of, allowed me to do so many more things. It translates, it bleeds into other areas of your life because I live by this aspect and this philosophy is like the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And the way that I look at fear is exactly that. So if I'm afraid to approach someone or to go have a public speech or to just say and speak my mind to someone that I know I'm in the right and I want them to know how I'm feeling, like these things hold us back from living the life that honestly you deserve to live. And I think fear is the thing that we need to be able to be comfortable with, even though it's extremely uncertain of what's going to happen on the other side. But that's where there's an aspect of like becoming certain of the uncertainty. And I've fallen in love with that process because that's made me everything of who I am today.
What's your next fear that you're stepping into right now in this season of life?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, as I've built such an amazing community here in Vietnam, a 500 person community, like everyone around the city loves me and knows me. And I'm like, I'm unsatisfied. And I had to admit that to myself. And it was very unfortunate. And it was very scary for me to admit that. But the next fear for me is to leave it all behind and to start over and to do it all over again, where I have basically a secure place. I have a place I can come back to. I live in an amazing villa with great friends, and I've been able to curate that and cultivate that. And essentially, like, I literally manifested it. And now I'm leaving it all behind for whatever reason. And I have like, I'm just going based off a feeling essentially, because I know that I've gone through such work on myself. But again, that feeling is fear. I'm going based on the fear because I've already exposed myself to all the things that I could be afraid of here in Vietnam, like doing events, doing workshops, doing multiple day events, like hosting and public speaking and the things that I was so afraid of. And now the thing I'm most afraid of is to leave it all behind and to try something new. So that's where I'm at.
So next level version of you is going to be in the next place. Nice though that you have that to come back to. Like, I think community is so important, and that you've created that is a beautiful thing. And I've seen you post about it when they celebrated your birthday, and just you can feel the love and that it is a beautiful place that you, like you said, you've helped curate. I'm curious about that manifesting little tidbit you just said. This is something that you dreamt of, you hoped for, or how did this come into place?
Oh yeah. Like it's actually so fascinating. When I look back to my life back in college, I was like thinking about, asking myself this question of what I want. And I still have it in one of my journals. And I just kept asking myself, what do I want and why do I want it? And why do I deserve a good life? And everything that I basically put on there has come true when it comes to the money, when it comes to like, I could literally think about me traveling, starting a business, living in a villa with a bunch of other entrepreneurs that I am really good friends with and having pool and like having a community, public speaking, doing events and workshops and retreats, all these things at 25 years old. I was like 18, 19, 20 when I was thinking about these things. And I've written them down and gotten them so clear in my head. And I visualized it and I meditated on it. And I put myself in those somatic experiences early on where I was like already putting myself in those situations in my mind, because my mind doesn't know the difference between a fake situation and a real situation, or an imagined situation and a real situation. And so I allowed myself to know what it would be like and feel like as the life I'm living now back then. And now I've been able to do all those things. And I'm just like so insanely proud of myself for living this life and achieving the things that I've achieved at this age. And honestly, it's fantastic. I'm so grateful. And I can say it's because of the things that I've given myself, the pride, the excitement, the joy, the appreciation, and the willingness to be myself.
Yeah. I think something that I'm thinking about is just being in such a different boat than you when it comes to life circumstance. You know, like I'm a mom, I'm 40, I'm a mom, I've got 3 kids. And I'm thinking of the person listening that has a lot of barriers that you don't have, right? Like they don't have the freedom to just move if they want or think up a thing and then like, oh, I want to experience Vietnam. I'm going, you know, like it's a little bit different when you're maybe in a job you hate or you're in a partnership that's not great. I'm not saying they want to leave their partnership, but like make it better or whatever it is that they're kind of envisioning. So with that friction that people might have, they want to manifest or, you know, put themselves in that future state and make it a reality. But there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of friction. So for those people that have maybe a little bit less freedom, maybe a little bit older than you, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how many people will actually take my advice because a lot of the times it's like, what is this guy gonna say? You know? I get that a lot, but honestly, I don't know what it's like. Like in reality, I don't know what it's like to have all these responsibilities and being tied down because I'm very grateful and I have the benefit to be able to be young and to just have time on my hands as a resource. And so I very much acknowledge that. And so that's the tricky part is like when you have a lot of responsibilities, it makes it much harder to have your own life. And I know what that's like because my dad lives this life. My dad has been in Vietnam and in Asia for the past 20 years, not in Vietnam, but he now has a wife that he is not super satisfied with. He has kids that he's living here with, and he feels stuck here with them. And he has a business here as well. And all of a sudden, he's like in a situation where he can't do anything. Like he doesn't have the willingness to just change. And I look at his life and I'm like, there are a few things that you can do. And I know what it's like because like I can see him in this situation. He's 60 now. And my mom, she's got my stepfather, but the life that I see people being able to live is small incremental changes. And it doesn't have to be dramatic, but it's just about like if you want time for yourself, maybe try to wake up a little bit earlier, right? So that could be an example if you have kids. Yes, that's a little bit harder because maybe they're already awake so early at 5 a.m. They have to get up early, but maybe then you take time for yourself in the evening. Like I know no matter what, the person that has thoughts of changing their life and doing something different, there is moments where they have nothing to do. In a sense, they're sitting on the TV or they're on their phone. They're doing something. There's always something that they put priority to. Mm-hmm. And in reality, it's like, what are your priorities? And so I always look at that as like the number one thing is my health a priority? Is my mind a priority? Is my body a priority? Because your kids probably are a priority, honestly, like huge priority. And then getting them fed, your job is a priority. There's so many things that obviously go into in these responsibilities. But at the end of the day, it's just all about your values and what you find important. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to change, start to look at what is actually that you want to change and then figure out a way to do it. Because no matter what, you will find a way if you are committed to doing something to change it. I have all the belief about that because the thing about it, if you've ever witnessed nature, is that everything changes. Mm-hmm. So nothing is ever stuck and stayed in stone. That's literally the essence or the rule of life, mm-hmm. of change. And so I always have believed that everyone can change. And if you are not willing to accept that, you are choosing to be that way.
Mm-hmm. And going back to how you began this conversation, getting clear on what you want, writing down what you want, knowing, okay, maybe these things aren't going to manifest overnight, but how can I start making incremental changes to get what I want? If it's more peace, okay, identifying what does peace look like? Asking yourself the what, the why, getting serious about those questions. I think that's a beautiful wrap up of tying us to the beginning of this conversation of everyone listening, like get clear on what you want and believe that you have the power to create that one step at a time.
Yeah, the belief is huge. I think that is such a great piece of it too, is like believing and knowing I do have some control here. A lot of things feel like I don't, especially when there's responsibilities on the table. But like you said, there are so many ways we waste time, and there's so many moments where it doesn't take a long time to shift something that can make a drastic change. I think people really underestimate the power of that belief and making that decision to just start to make some momentum.
And it's also just underestimating themselves.
Yeah.
Like you have so much more capabilities than you give yourself credit for, honestly. And I've lived that life myself, and I always had doubts about myself and the way that the world worked. And until I started to truly change that belief, things started to change as well.
Well, I love our conversation so far. We have more to ask you, but I want people to know if they're like, okay, I like Sam's style, and I feel like I want to work with them to kind of understand myself more. And maybe I feel like you're a good person to start with too, if you're like, okay, he's going to get me out of my comfort zone, and he does some crazy stuff on the beach in Vietnam. Like maybe this will get me to try new things. So if people want to work with you or follow you and follow your work, where can they find you and follow you?
For me, I usually go to Instagram, but I haven't been posting on Instagram that much recently. So the best way is to go to Instagram and then message me, essentially. Like I have a whole, if you just message me Gute, it's Gute. That's my middle name, and that's my method that I use, because I find that it's important to ground that. Like I'll share with you the whole method.
Okay.
The Gute stands for grounding, understanding, truth in action, and then embodiment. And so the one that I like the most is the truth in action. And we've discussed and we've talked about different points about this here and there. And it's basically just really getting clear after understanding like what it is that you've been living, like the life you've been living, and why has it been this way, what has been holding you back, and why you are the way that you are. And then essentially the truth in action comes with testing. It's a trial and error phase. Because as you mentioned before, you were saying this, Andrea, about like, oh, it's so interesting that you can just like try so many different things and you have this experience of traveling. I do it for a reason. I'm not just a crazy person that just tries so many different things for just the heck of it. I do it for a specific purpose, and that's to live the best version of who I know I can be. And so all of these different modalities and these tools and these practices and these ways of living is basically been me testing and trying and giving myself space to really go in and actually give myself the time needed to see if. And that's the question. It's just if. And so if it does work and I feel good, then that's something that I want to stick with. And honestly, there's too many things out there, especially if you go online on social media for 5 minutes, you'll find that there's an abundance of information, so much information. And honestly, it bothers me. It bothers me how much information there is. And that then brings us back to that gap between like who you know who you are and who you are right now, or who you know you could be as well. And that thing about actually getting there, oh, it's just about finding what works for you. It's honestly so unique and specific to every single person that you have to know all the different types of modalities, all the different types of therapies, all the different types of tools, which I've studied and understood and recognized and been like, yeah, this is who you are. This is like your style, your personality, and how this works for you. You should try this, or you should try that. And so we then test and try and then become essentially who you want to be in little increments, in little portions of time, because it's not just like you have one session with someone like me and then you're going to change your life forever. It's a conditioning. It's something that you have to do over time. Like you buy a guitar or you buy a piano and it's a brand new piano. But the thing about it is it's most likely going to get out of tune very quickly. And so you have to hire someone to come back and continue to change it up and tune it up. And that's what's the testing is for, the truth in action. And then finally you get to a point where you've honed it in so well that you then embody that. You embody who you want to be.
I love
That's
it.
essentially the way that I work.
I think those are the gold stars today. Goot. I like it. We should do 3 gold stars, which are like 3 takeaways. But I feel like those 4 are so important. And I don't feel like you can skip any of those parts. They're all so important. And it just hits home the value of a coach too, having someone that's going to hold you accountable to these things. Because a lot of times we start to take action, but we get derailed. And
You need some accountability.
yes. Yep. Okay. Next segment is Unleashing Ivy. So just a few questions we're curious about. My question is, being a people pleaser and how you allow people to treat you. I mean, that requires some boundaries, right? And some shifting of who's in your group. And so I'm curious for you, how you've shifted that, how you've shifted how you've allowed people to treat you, being someone that used to identify as a people pleaser.
The thing about it is like being a people pleaser, we know we need to set boundaries. We know that. But actually upholding them is the hardest part about boundary setting. And when you are like, you know what, I'm going to have a boundary about making sure that no one calls me fat anymore. No one calls me fat anymore, or no one treats me like I'm nobody. Honestly, it's about upholding it. And so you have come to the recognition that you want that boundary to be set, but then that moment when someone crosses the line and they step into your no okay zone, that's where I've had to do a lot of work. And that's where I can call into this as like crucial conversations. So crucial conversations is one of the most like valuable skill I've ever learned. Like it's so valuable because the thing about it inside of these really hard conversations that we all have, and this could be with a partner, a kid, with your boss, with your coworker, with your best friend. There's so many hard conversations that we can have. And as soon as you are recognizing what it means to have a really healthy conversation, and the way that I like to do this, I actually invite a game. So this could be another gold star. Basically, it's called Tell Me Something You Think I Should Know. And so this is a game that I play with people now after I've learned this over just a course of time. It's basically where I will say, "Hey, can we play a game? Do you like games?" You'll say, "Yeah, you like games." Like who doesn't like games, right? And so it's called Tell Me Something You Think I Should Know. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask this question, tell me something you think I should know. And you're then going to basically speak your mind. So you go off and you are going to say everything that you think I should know about this specific context. And I'm going to shut up. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let you speak for as long as you need to about what we're going to go into. And then after they're done, they are going to ask the same question and be like, "Hey, Sam, tell me something you think I should know." And so then it's my turn. And then I will go into saying everything that I think they should know. And we then go back and forth with us being able to speak our minds clearly, no interrupting, no like back and forth. It's just a clear, okay, I'm complete, I'm done. And then, okay, now it's your turn. And then this just gets deeper and deeper and deeper each layer as you go into it. And it's such a powerful way to get into a conversation with someone that you really need to have an important conversation with. And it's just also like it just breaks the barriers down, especially because okay, so let me ask you this. You probably heard this a few times, and it's something that we get triggered by so quickly, and our state and our mind just goes crazy. And it's just the question of, "Hey, we need to talk." So
Yikes.
that puts the The walls immediately. The walls get put up. All of a sudden, they're like, yeah, I gotta do this thing. Like, it's just no one wants to be a part of a conversation like that, where the first thing that they say is we gotta talk. So where have changed the dials a little bit is just turned it into a game and been like, hey, tell me something you think I should know.
I like
And
it.
that's-
So is the goal then they start and then you're able to say the thing and create the boundary that you need to create? Is that the idea?
Yeah, and that's where you also set the boundary too. That's where you've been like, hey, honestly, like I've been experiencing this little discomfort, and I've had this like resentment and bitterness towards you for a little bit. Like you have to be honest, very, very honest. Honesty is so key here, especially the way that you feel and the way that you're just have been feeling in the moment and in the past. It's not to victimize them. That's the really important part. It's not to say like, oh, you do this and you do that. Like you can't blame them. You have to take full responsibility for the way you feel and have been showing up. It's like, based on what you're doing, it's making me feel this way. And so it's like coming into it with integrity and being very respectful and honest about yourself and the situation is really important.
Can't say I've ever heard that one. I like it. Okay.
Could be fun.
My question is in regards to maybe, how do I want to say this? A myth, a way that we live our life here in the States, that you living other places and being an entrepreneur, which I feel like sets you apart from normal people here as well. What is maybe a health myth or a way of life that you're like, no, everyone thinks that's okay, that's normal, but like, that's not true?
Good question.
I got it. The idea of eating 3 meals a day.
Oh.
Say
Are you
more.
thinking more or less?
Less.
Less, much less. I eat maybe once or twice a day.
I eat
on a
all day
daily
long.
basis.
So
Hey,
tell me,
each to their
tell
own.
me.
So the thing about it is like, it's all based on your goals as well. But when it comes to it, the body is a machine. It's a very, very, very healthy and strong machine. And so the thing that fuels that machine is the food, right? So if you understand a little bit about neurochemistry and physiology, you'll know that 90 to 95% of our serotonin is produced in the gut. And so that's where then you'll realize that, to feel good, I just need to eat healthy. And the thing about it though, it's not necessarily just eating often or the right things. It's about eating at the proper times and also the proper meals according to what it is that your goals are. And so for me, like I want to be strong. I want to be healthy in regards to my mind and my body as well. And I also want to have a good spirit. And I also just want to have a high performance. I want to be able to be emotional and empathetical and also communicate with people and have this strength within me. And so for me, I don't need that much food. And especially if I'm eating too much, I feel bloated. I feel stuffed and I can't move as much. And then when I can't move as much, I can't feel as much. And then that inhibits my ability to actually speak my mind or to do a certain thing, because as soon as I'm too full, it just resembles like overwhelm and overthinking and stuckness.
Oh.
And that's the way that I look at it, is because it's just so much. It's too much. And honestly, like it fills up the body and then resembles then, because the body and mind are very much connected. And so as I've realized over the course of my life, I've recognized that the less I've eaten, the more happy, the more healthy, and the more strong I've actually been. It's really
Interesting.
fascinating.
You'd be great on Survivor.
Yeah, I bet I would be.
You really would be. You would be great. That's so interesting. Like thinking about how often you're eating, how that's affecting like,
Well,
am
if
I
you're
overwhelmed? Am I-
if you're constantly digesting, that your body's using all of its resources to digest, and that's exhausting.
Exactly.
And so there's
Yes.
something to fasting, to giving yourself your body a break from digesting. That I totally agree. I think
I've
magic
thought about
happens.
that. Like I should
Autophagy happens, which
should play with it. But also I have so much energy all the time. So I feel like everybody's just different. But I do think
Yes.
like women's hormones and stuff, we got to kind of experiment with ourselves and be like, would fasting be better for me? Is it worse for me? I think
there's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I like it. That was a good one. Okay, last question. If you could go back to younger Sam, any age, and tell him something, what age would you go back to and what would you tell him?
Wow, I've never thought about that question before. Never thought about that. Well, actually, I've done hypnosis therapies before, and one of the things that is so important for me is that inner child connection. And so I would say, like, I think the 7-year-old, like, I just have this connection to like a 6, 7-year-old version of me. Um, and honestly, I would say, because like this was around the time where my parents were fighting a little bit and trying to figure out like what to do with a variety of things before, like, as my dad was leaving really often as well, and so I wasn't able to see him very often because he was always traveling for business. Like, he was leaving to Taiwan and China. And I think the most important thing for me to hear at that time was, dad still loves you. Your dad still loves you. Because I was thinking like everything, like that was also where I got my, I guess you could say, attention seeking personality. Because when your father leaves, you want to do everything you can to bring him back home. And so that in my head was like, I need to be a crazy kid. I need to go and just be a wild maniac and a rebel and a chaotic kid. And so that would be something that I think that version of me really needed to hear at that time. Because he was gone for a lot of months and I wasn't able to see him, and I was really afraid. So
Oh, that's sweet. I
just to
think
say,
it's cool that you've connected to that, because I think a lot of people don't realize how much it still affects them today. Their inner child, like they've never even explored this, right? And I think doing different modalities, you've mentioned a few times, you've done a lot of different modalities, and I know Brooke and I have as well, gone to some different planets in our modalities here. But it's so powerful because there is an age in your childhood that little girl, little boy still affects how you feel about yourself today, how you interact with the world, how you feel. And I think the more we understand that little girl, boy, and can give them some compassion, and it scares me too, because I have 3 kids. So I'm like, oh, what's that age going to be for them? And what's that story going to be? But I think that's so powerful that we all just want to feel loved, and especially by, your mom and dad. But Sam, I feel like we went all over the map today, and I loved it. I love that you are living a very different life. I think you're such an intriguing person, and I love that you're young, because you're going to keep having more and more knowledge to share, and you have more adventures ahead of you. And I think it's beautiful how you're taking your life experience and putting it into words and coaching. It's going to help so many people. I know it already has. But this was so fun. And how we end every episode, you've already shared a quote. So you can reshare the quote you already did, or if you have a different quote, but we end every episode with a piece of gold, a quote that speaks to you. Would you sign us off with yours?
oh gosh, I have so many quotes, but the one that's really made a huge impact in my life, the one that beyond all the other quotes that I've said, is nothing has meaning for it except for the meaning that you give it.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold. We want to thank you and encourage you to celebrate yourself for taking the time to learn and get inspired in your one beautiful life. And if this podcast means something to you, it would mean so much to us if you'd be willing to take 30 seconds to help support our mission to keep bringing you inspiring stories and guests.
First, following the podcast is important because it helps you never miss an episode. To do this, just go to the Ivy Unleashed podcast show page on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and then just tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner or click on follow.
While you're there, if you'd be so kind to give us a 5-star rating and review and share your favorite episode with a friend, we'd be so grateful for your support.
We are thrilled you're here and are so happy that you're taking time to prioritize your wellness, self-discovery, and growth with us. Additionally, we want to remind you that this podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We are not licensed therapists, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals.